Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your path to your best emotional and physical health. My name is Erin, and I'm happy to bring you some more information in our series on cognitive decline. So, real quick before we get into today's topic, please make sure if you like the information and you want to get more notifications as videos come out, don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up so you can be notified of those things as they come along almost every day. Also, if you want some extra tips, please feel free to download my 5 free videos on the tips to finding your best emotional and physical health, and we'll get you started on your path to feeling your best. So with that, I want to continue just what we've been talking about regarding our overall changing our eating habits and feeling better about preventing cognitive decline and keeping our brain kind of working at the best possible way, functionality that it can. And so even though I'm not a nutritionist, I think I would have been if I had discovered this stuff before I became a psychologist. So now I focus more on how I can incorporate the nutritional information that I do gain from others into the overall health and wellness of people that I treat, whether it be for mental health issues or whether it's cognitive decline or stuff like that. So I do a lot of research on nutrition and kind of explore some of those different things and how it affects our overall health. So we have been talking about, changing your eating habits so that you can feel better and prevent cognitive decline and that kind of thing. So we talked about vegetables last time and how we need to really make a plant-based diet as kind of the foundation of our overall eating rather than grains, because grains can be pretty inflammatory in a lot of situations. But the next thing that I want to talk about today is fat. And, most people have probably heard all these things about the ketogenic diet and all of that stuff. And while there hasn't been a ton of research that suggests a straight ketogenic diet is what we need to do for cognitive decline, there's definitely parts of that philosophy that definitely will help the brain do the best that it can and learn to function under fat. Well, it already can function under fat, but give it the fat that it needs, right? So along with some weight loss, which a lot of people probably like with the ketogenic diet, there is just a better source of fuel for the brain when we talk about fat. I mean, the brain can operate on sugar as well, but it also works really well with fat, because the brain is 60 to 70% fat, something like that. It's a huge amount, and that's part of the myelin sheaths and the kind of the lipids that go around the cells and all of those things that kind of protect the brain and the membranes and all of that kind of stuff. So since there's a ton of cells in the brain, there's a ton of fat in the brain, and that's kind of the things that we need to figure out. So the beauty of fat in the diet is that it's so satiating that it's really, really hard to overindulge, because it really helps us turn off some of those hormones that make us want to overeat. So, and if you feel full or feel satisfied, you're going to be less likely to be triggered to eat the sugars, which are problematic, which we've talked about before. So we kind of keep that in mind. But sometimes the people start worrying about what kind of fats. What do we do? What, is this fat healthy? Is this fat not? And there's just so much out there. You have to kind of develop a basic understanding of what fat looks like and what fats are healthy, because sometimes people think, ketogenic diet, I can just eat all the bacon I want. And while bacon is good and has some good fats in it, probably not your best choice. There's some other things that might be a little bit more healthy. So I just kind of want to talk about what some of those different fats are real quick so that you kind of know what's healthy and what's not. So our big ones that we actually use are both saturated and unsaturated fats, okay? As far as helping us, let's talk about the good ones. So we have monounsaturated and saturated fats. We'll talk about polyunsaturated in a minute. But those two are actually some of your best ones, okay? And let's just talk about what they look like so you can kind of remember that rather than remembering which one's which. So saturated fats, those are your animal fats, which some people say you can get too much of. And there is that possibility. But some of the other ones that are also useful that are saturated fats, you see a lot of is coconuts and coconut oil, which a lot of the times we'll take a little bit of that, especially if we're fasting, to kind of do that satiation and burn that, and it creates that beta hydroxybutyrate. and MCT oil, which is usually derived from coconuts or something like that. So those are the saturated fats that can make sure we incorporate that and create a little bit of a foundation for fats. The other ones that are really, really good that most people can incorporate a ton in is our monounsaturated fats, which is like our avocados and our olives. I love olives. Olives are fabulous. If you need a salty snack and you don't want to go for the crackers, which can be a little bit of an addiction, is those processed crackers, which we shouldn't be eating. But olives, they come in these little like cups now, which I love to have in my office because if I feel like I need something salty, I will always pick a little thing of olives because one, it provides you with that healthy fat, which is the olive oil, right? And then also it's a little bit of salt. They're usually fermented and brined, so they have a little bit of probiotic and that kind of stuff. They're just really, really healthy. So the other thing that we can eat is nuts and seeds, and those also provide some fat. And so those are also really satiating and sometimes, but they can be high in calories. So you have to kind of be careful about those as well. So those are your best options. Some little nuts, little seeds, coconut oil, a little bit of animal fat with your protein. And I'm not saying that you need to have the fattiest steak out there or eat all of that, but you need to have a little bit of fat with your meat and a little bit of fat in your dairy. We're all into this non-fat dairy. Doesn't really help us. We need to have some of that if we're having dairy. If dairy is problematic for you, don't have dairy. But those kinds of things are a little bit beneficial. Now, where we can kind of get into a little bit of trouble is the polyunsaturated fats, okay? So those are the ones that have both good and fats in them, good and bad fats in them, which is our omega-6s and our omega-3s. Now, omega-3s are what we need, right? So omega-3s are the ones that are found in your fatty fish, your chia seeds, flax, those kinds of things. And those are really, really essential. And typically in an old-fashioned diet or a diet that's more natural, we're going to be high in omega-3s from those natural foods and then low in omega-6s. And there's all different kinds of balances for that. But in today's modern diet, we've really increased the omega-6s by having nut and seeds and vegetable oils that are not healthy for us. And so we end up with this really high inflammatory type oil because omega-6s are inflammatory and omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So which is why some people take a lot of omega-3 supplements because that can kind of counteract maybe the omega-6 that they have in their diet. And I always try to get people to reduce the amount of omega-6 in their diet and not use vegetable oils and use the healthier oils. And we'll talk about cooking oils in just a second. But those are the ones that you want to kind of focus on and just make those choices and not use the vegetable oils, corn oils, those margarines, those kinds of things, which are the unhealthy oils. So the old diets used to be like, I don't know, the 4-to-1 with the omega-3s being 4 and the omega-6 being 1, but we're seeing high amounts like 25-to-1 now, and that's just not healthy. It creates that inflammatory response where you've got pain, you've got inflammation in your veins and your arteries, and that's a problem. All kinds of things like we've been talking about. So we kind of want to keep that, in the back of our minds about what oils we should be choosing. A little quick word about how oils should be stored. Try to store them in glass jars if you can, dark glass jars so it doesn't affect them, the light doesn't affect them. But when you keep oils in plastic, vegetable oil bottles, those kinds of things, they tend to leach some of the things out of plastic that are problematic. And then you're exposed to more toxins. And as we've talked about toxins off and on, that's a problem for the body in general. So keep that in mind when you're storing your oils. So let's talk for a quick second about EVOO, which a lot of people say, which is extra virgin olive oil, which is great and wonderful. I don't cook with that particularly because I like an oil that has a little bit higher smoke point and can get a little bit hotter because I tend to leave the stove on a little higher than I probably should. So I tend to cook with the coconut which is more of a solid oil and looks more like a lard or because it's that white solid or a margarine. Or I'll use avocado oil for cooking because extra virgin olive oil, when it gets too high a heat, it can break down some of those chemicals that are healthy for us and into little unhealthy compounds. So we just kind of have to keep an eye on that. So the olive oil is a little bit better for in the salad dressings and dressed on top of stuff. A lot of times if you've cooked stuff that hasn't had a lot of fat in it, you can kind of dress it a little bit with olive oil, which will help enhance its flavor and also help it be a little bit healthier for you. So you just kind of got to keep those in mind. I mean, olive oil and any of these oils have such a great way of helping us because they, increase autophagy, which is, our brain cleaning up the things it doesn't need, and it improves our metabolic abilities. It also increases our synapses and actually lowers beta amyloid and tau and increases BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor, which helps us kind of grow brain cells as we need them. Actually will increase our good cholesterol and decrease our bad cholesterol, our LDL. So those kinds of things are really kind of something to look at as we kind of change this in our diet, and we can kind of use those markers to kind of follow that and see how things work. So again, just kind of keep in mind when you're making choices in the grocery store, you might have to play with some different oils to figure out what you like the taste of. Because if you're a baker, you may want to be real careful about which kind of oils you put in those products, because it might make them taste a little different. So you have to kind of play around with that. But again, keep in mind that there's lots of things available out there. And when you're looking at for the high smoke point oils that you kind of want to cook with, you can look for things like avocado oil, like I said, butter. Butter is fabulous. Ghee, sesame, and coconut oils, and all of those have a little bit higher smoke point than the olive oil. So that's kind of my spiel on fats and how we can incorporate those in the diet and what to consider when you're in the grocery store. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If you're looking at making dietary changes and you need a little bit more help and a little bit more coaching, please connect with me on the website and we can go through some of your options available to you. So thanks and have a great day.